I want to thank you all for coming. I'm here today for two important reasons: to ensure the health and safety of the people of Albany County. I'm talking about their health, the public safety, and the peace of mind. I'm talking about the Port of Albany and its tar sand. The plan by global partners to build the large boilers that would heat crude oil before shipping. These boilers would be heated by crude oil being shipped from Canada. Heating is needed because the oil tankers, because it comes with a price, and the price is the safety. We're taking all the risk at the Port of Albany without any of the benefits. Think about that. They have tar oil coming in from Canada, and they have the light crude oil coming in from up in North Dakota. The problem with that is that the tar oil is not really highly flammable or explosive until it's being heated. So it's kind of more safer on our tracks. The light oil is very dangerous during transportation. So when it's coming down the Hudson River or if it's coming down the tracks, and some of these trains, I don't know if anyone's noticed in the city of Albany, they stretch 120 cars. So even though if it's parked at the Port of Albany, it could almost hit Manans. That's how long the stretch is. And I'm going to let the experts talk about how they're being transported and everything else. But what I'm here today is to talk about the health of the residents of Albany County. And that's the approach that we're taking. And under the charter, under the health law, I'm going to issue an executive order and basically hold a moratorium on the expansion of their application to the DEC. We have the authority to do it. We're going to stop it until all these questions are answered. So in a partnership with Dr. Cachetti and Sheriff Apple, because we're going to, Dr. Cachetti is going to look at the air quality and the health side, and I'm going to let him talk about that. And Sheriff Apple is going to evaluate the emergency response side into the people of Albany County. Because think about it, we have a housing project right down in this neighborhood that has over 80% are below the poverty line, and it's right in their backyard. We have an obligation to the people of this community to make sure they're safe while they're up, while they're sleeping, while they're working, and we need to do our due diligence. I do want to thank Governor Cuomo for bringing the 5 agencies together to making them work collaboratively and answering our call when we wrote our letter and extending the public comment period and being here to help us. But I also want to thank the people that were active in the community, the ones that are out there voicing their concern at Giffen Elementary School, to our common council members, to the legislators like Lucy McKnight, that were in their community, Carolyn McLaughlin, and other ones that were out there really just telling the people what's going on and why we should be worried about it. About 2 weeks ago in Selkirk, we had a derailment of these same cars. Now, they happen to be empty. 2 years ago, we had one that was filled down in Selkirk that ran aground. The potential for an explosion that happened in North Dakota when we had all them people pass away can happen here right in our backyard. And as county executive, not just because I've been saying we're going to be the greenest county in the state of New York, but this is about the health and safety of our residents. This is about so they can go outside and a kid can play this summer and not worry about them heating up this crude oil in these boilers and it affecting them with asthma or whatever other else may happen. We have to make sure that people can run around and be safe. So I am going to issue an executive order today on a moratorium. Even if DEC does permit them to build these boilers, they will not be able to build them until we lift the moratorium. And I'm only going to lift the moratorium after these questions are answered. The questions are answered about what are they first shipping into the Port of Albany? How when they heat it up, how hazardous is it when they're heating this crude oil up, this tar sand oil, to offload it? What's the impact of a response if it gets into the Hudson River? How do we respond to this? I've been a city firefighter for over 10 years and the fire service for 20. I was in the south end of Albany, and I can tell you, we did train to respond to the port. But what are you training to respond to? I want to compliment Sheriff Apple, since we've been on this road together since he's been sheriff and I've been county executive. He said, we both agreed, we're not going to be reactive. We're going to be proactive to the things that are going on in this county. And, and I want to say to Sheriff, and he'll speak, and I'm hopefully not stealing any of your thunder. I'm sorry. That's a change. he's out there, and he wants to make sure we're going to, from Dr. Cachetti in the Sheriff's Department, is going to make sure that when emergency responses to this, that we have the tools and the resources to address this issue quickly. God forbid if something happens and something blows up in our port. How do we evacuate the people? How do we respond to it as a fire department? What, are you going to use foam? Are you going to use water? Are you going to use dry chemical? We don't know. There's trade secrets, and we're going to use our subpoena power to bring them to court if they're not going to hand over their documentations and tell us. We have full authority to bring them to court, to make them tell us what they're shipping through here and what are the chemicals they're using and how they're going to heat this up. Because that's going to, that right there as they're heating this tar oil up, that's when we're going to get in trouble if something happens. And I want to make sure the residents, not just of the south end of Albany, but the county, are protected.
Let me highlight what this order is and what it is not. This is the county's response to important and understandable concerns of the residents in the south end of Albany and what is happening in their backyards. And for the Ezra Prentice community, I'm speaking literally. The Port of Albany and the DT 111 rail cars are staged very close to their back doors, and they are understandably concerned about this and about their health. Also, this is the county's way of assuring that the community's concerns are addressed. The Health Department is currently responding to an Albany County legislative resolution that requests the Health Department to review the proposed plans to heat crude oil at the port and to report findings to the legislature. However, if after this review there are findings of significant public health magnitude, more would be necessary than just reporting these findings. This moratorium gives the Health Department the authority and the time to assure the process being proposed is fully understood, to determine whether there would be any potential adverse impact upon the health of residents of the South End, and to follow up on questions that have been posed by the community and to make sure they are fully addressed. Let me also say what this moratorium is not. It is not imposing another layer of government unnecessarily into the permitting process regarding Global's request to modify its air permit. Nor is it a lack of confidence in DEC or the New York State Department of Health to do their jobs and to provide helpful assistance in this matter. To the contrary, we depend upon the expertise from these agencies.
This is really about public safety, and that's what we're supposed to do. And as the county executive said, historically, with public safety and all the disciplines that surround it, we have more of a reactive response. Something catastrophic happens, we respond, make things better, and then we fall back and critique it going, geez, how could we have prevented this? What should we have done? And you see it disaster after disaster. So, before he stole my words, I will say that now we're trying to be proactive. We want to do what's right for our communities. And all we're looking for is to have a common sense approach. We're not going to be out there putting barricades up, stopping rail traffic, but we want a common sense approach. Tell us what you're putting through here. Let's look at what your response plans are. Give us the resources that we need to protect our community. And that's what this is going to come down to, because right now, if one of these disasters occur right here, and we've really been blessed, that rail car incident in CSX could have been catastrophic. The incident down in New Jersey, Philadelphia, you can go all around the country. You really dodged a bullet here. Unfortunately, some of these incidents have taken lives, 42 lives, burned communities out. We want to be prepared to respond appropriately and protect our community. And that's really what this boils down to.
We already know that pipelines have significant community risk. We looked at the community of Mayflower, which had a major break in the pipeline and spill through that community. Why is it the county responds and not a local city response or state? These rails traverse this county and crisscross the county. I know that Dr. Carpenter, through his backyard, the rails pass through his backyard. Our organization over in Arbor Hill, the rails pass right through Tivoli Preserve, along the entire Hudson River corridor. And as someone who worked on, as they say, working on our Superfund and hazardous cleanup issues with regards to the state, I know that this community is at significant risk. It is a drop in the bucket, chump change for a Fortune 500 company to give this community the resources that it needs to prepare for a disaster. Remember, as they increase capacity to increase profits, you're also increasing risk. This is a linear relationship. So, should the community have basically an unfunded burden placed upon it? Should the taxpayers of this county foot the full bill for a Fortune 500 company? I would argue, just from a business sense, from a county management sense, it makes no sense. It's not enough for them to say that we have emergency materials and disaster preparedness materials on site. But as a first responder to 9/11, I can tell you when the site is the disaster area, access to those emergency materials are compromised. So the strategic deployment of even emergency materials to protect our community and our health must be staged throughout the community. This community and this county has been in sore need for an environmental services bureau within the Sheriff's Department. This, right now, by basically putting a virtual pipeline throughout Albany County, begs the need for them to properly, as they say, a community benefit, as they say, to deal with this burden, to put in the resources for this.
The question is, what are the health effects of having these volatile organic chemicals in the air that people are going to breathe? And obviously, the people that live closest are going to breathe them more continuously. Frequent infections, constant headaches, children not doing well in school because of the air pollution. Now, in addition to the volatile organics, there are two other chemicals that are very dangerous that are going to be found and at present are not being proposed to be monitored. One is hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide is the rotten egg smell. Hydrogen sulfide, if you breathe it in, combines with water to make sulfuric acid. The other chemical is formaldehyde. Now, most people know about formaldehyde because of foam insulation and how dangerous it is if it's in your house. Formaldehyde is a known human carcinogen. And you don't think about it being in oil, but it is in oil. And it's in oil in significant quantities. And in the studies that we've just done monitoring in 5 states, some of the formaldehyde levels in residents near fracking wells are about 1,000 times higher than what is considered to be the safe level. There will be formaldehyde released when you heat tar sands oil. And there probably will be formaldehyde released just by having exposure to the Balkan oil. Now, of the volatile organics, one that's really of concern is benzene. So you have these short-term effects of headaches and respiratory irritation and infections. But benzene is also a known human carcinogen. So if people are breathing in benzene and formaldehyde, you have 2 carcinogens. Formaldehyde is what we use for embalming fluid. You breathe that in together with hydrogen sulfide, which is basically forming sulfuric acid. One of the common complaints around fracking sites are constant nosebleeds of people that never had nosebleeds before. Think about it. You're breathing in embalming fluid, and then you're having acid on top of it. It's no wonder that you're eroding the blood vessels in the nose. So there are short-term effects from the volatile organics, from the hydrogen sulfide, and there are long-term effects that are of great concern, that being primarily cancer.
Good morning, everybody. Peter Iwanowitz with Environmental Advocates of New York. Wow. Finally, a comprehensive approach. We're going to actually look before we leap, or in this case, we're shoved by big oil. Environmental Advocates applauds the steps being taken today by County Executive McCoy to move forward with a moratorium on dangerous tar sands oil coming through the Port of Albany and down the Hudson. We are really grateful for his leadership he is demonstrating today to protect the public health and safety of Albany County and to safeguard our environment from the dangers of moving crude oil through the Albany port. I think it should be abundantly clear from what you've heard this morning, what you've read in previous media accounts, that big oil has little regard for what their operations mean for our community, and what they could mean if there is a catastrophic event. For example, dramatic increases in rail traffic without sort of letting us know what's going to be happening. failing to notify local and state officials after a derailment in Selkirk that could lead to a catastrophic event, refusing to answer basic questions that our county and state, as well as city and local leaders have asked of them. Basic questions like what their intentions are here for Albany, what they'll be moving through these boilers. They've refused to answer these questions in any form. To them, it's all about moving their product as quickly as they can to market. And we believe that means moving dangerous, dirty tar sands oil through the Port of Albany by rail and on barges down the Hudson. And Aaron mentioned a couple of different major incidences. When you have spills of tar sands oil, it's really, really hard to clean up. And what does that mean about our public health? What does that mean for our environment? We don't know, because basic answers like these aren't forthcoming from Big Oil. So we need a comprehensive review of Big Oil's plans, and the actions announced today will do that. We hope that other county executives all along the oil train rail lines in New York and up and down the Hudson River will do the exact same thing as what Albany County has done here today. And they will replicate the leadership of County Executive McCoy and the leaders here of the Health Department and Sheriff's Department to really examine what Big Oil's intentions are and what they mean for our health, our safety, and safeguarding an environment. So just to finish up, thank you, County Executive McCoy. Taking these important steps today are real leadership and real comprehensive approach. They represent for us a beacon of hope that Big Oil will finally have to answer basic questions that we've posed to them, and we'll get some answers soon. Thank you.
Have been made to the city of Albany to cook crude sand oils in our neighborhoods. And that was a scary thought to all of us. They call them black bombs. They have all kind of names in the community that they call these black bacon oil trains that come through. And I went right from there to talk to all my colleagues on the Florida legislature. I said, we're going to put this out.
This is something that residents of the South End they go to sleep at night afraid when they sleep. And I would be fearful too if I closed my back door and there was a train sitting in it with God knows what in it. People are telling me that I smell oil. I can't open my windows because of the smell. And Dr. Carpenter just said what those effects can have on people. And we have had residents say, I have headaches, my throat hurts, and I don't understand why.
You heard from a lot of great speakers today, and I want to thank them because it's about partnerships. It's coming together collectively as a community to make things happen. And I'm glad as county executive I can issue this executive order and put a moratorium on their application to the DEC, whether it gets approved or not. We're going to make sure, first and foremost, the safety of our residents are there, and the health of our residents. And you know, one of the things that comes to mind that bothers me is you get OSHA 1910. And if you look at that whole book of OSHA, and they come into your company and they inspect it, and companies like this Fortune 500, and Sheriff Apple said it correctly, have a way of beating the system. They know, hey, this is what I have to comply to meet this OSHA standard. Well, OSHA finally got smart and put a general duty clause in there. And that general duty clause, if you look, they violate more companies under the general duty clause because they say, yes, you meet the standard of 1910. But you know better, and you know you should be doing this for the safety of your workers. Well, that should apply here. Common sense approach, that we have to look at the air monitoring. We have to look at the safety and the response and the resources, Aaron Mayer cited and Sheriff Apple, that we're going to need to put in place to protect the people. You know, we're going to be looking at creating new agencies, you know, adding new fire personnel, adding new sheriffs to respond to this type of incident. Because we want to make sure, first and foremost, the health department has its staff to do its due diligence to make sure this happens.